Live, but I think it wasn't live. The timer wasn't moving. I don't know if it's the bad trailer Wi-Fi here, but here we go again. We're live again like we are every Wednesday. In today's video, I thought it'd be a little bit more clickbaity than usual, and I just titled it, I lost it all. Now, I haven't actually lost it all, but today's video is going to be about what I would do if I had to come back from it. However, I have had a really bad year to date. We are down a lot. I am shorting the market 2-1, and it has been one of the strongest rallies out the gate. I started doing well at the start of the year as it continued to go down, and then of course you've seen companies like Coinbase up 100%, Roblox up 50%, Tesla up 70%, the entire NASDAQ up like 17% rally in basically a little over a month. So it's been a wild ride. I'm 2-1 the inverse of that, and I thought, what a great video for today if I lost it all. Now you guys know that I practice diversity, and so I would never risk everything. There would always be a way to come back. We're slumming it up tonight from a trailer park in Florida. So what you see behind me is where I'm sleeping tonight. We are gonna squeeze into this trailer park, and I think at the end of the day, this is gonna remind us, and the reason why I do this is because one, my in-laws are, my in-laws, this is their trailer, and so that's why we're staying here, because it's a free night to sleep. But it reminds me of, when I was growing up, bouncing around with, my foster dad, and, kind of the childhood that I had was not ideal. I grew up in poverty, and days like today remind me of how important it is to stay grounded and to always remember that at the center of, who I am, I'm frugal. And as I elevate everything that I do, it's helpful to remember that, when you're thinking through coming back from this, being able to, survive in less than ideal circumstances, I think gives you a level of perseverance that you can strive to become and be better by starting from nowhere. So I'm gonna talk about that tonight. Obviously, if you have any questions, throw them in the bottom. We'll do our live stream like we do every week. So if you have anything real estate related, personal finance, whatever, happy to share it. I'm down realistically, I'm down like 300,000-400,000 this year, which is barely moves the needle for me. But I was walking around the trailer park today, and I was thinking to myself, I could buy this entire probably 150, 200 unit trailer park that my in-laws are in right now. And then I was thinking through it, and I was like, walking around, no one knows who I am. No one knows that I'm anyone, right? And I was remembering what it's like to be poor, seeing people around struggling. And I'm like, how do these people not get ahead? And I'm like, it's mindset. It has to be mindset, because a lot of these people are making good money, but just making poor financial choices. And so that's where I wanted to start this video off today, is just thinking through that a lot today, actually, about how blessed my life is and how blessed my kids are. And so opportunities like this, where we get to go camping sometimes, or visit the in-laws at the trailer park here, this is an opportunity, I think, to show my kids and to remind myself of what it's like to come from and not have a lot, and to not get accustomed to luxury because of the concept of hedonic adaptation. Basically is that as humans, we get used to whatever environment we put ourselves in, and we basically become spoiled. And it's a lot harder to go down psychologically than it is to go up. So if I gave you 100 grand and then I took 100 grand away from you, there would be so much more pain if I took that 100 grand away from you than the joy that I gave you when I gave you that 100 grand. And that's been proven time and time again. I was a psych major at Western University. That's what I studied, was business and psychology. And I love to think through how the mindset works, and how, it's almost like in athletics, where you cold shock and then you do the hot spas. And that cold shock to your muscles and to your system actually does so much good. Yeah. Okay, let's do some Q&A. Hey guys, how you doing? Hey. Thank you for all the comments. Thank you for telling me it's live. Greetings. Good to see you on as well. Port City, I'll be happy to share how I think you can grow really quick. I'm gonna do that in this video today. It's the question I get most often is like, what do you do when you're starting out? And I did it from nothing. Like at 17 years old, I had nothing. Moved out on my own, went into my dorm room, got early acceptance to university, and almost got full-ride scholarship, essentially. So that was very helpful. But a lot of it comes down to, when you're growing from when I was 19 and 20 and 21, I even had peers who had the same amount of wealth that I did. Because I think by 21, I had saved, almost 100 grand. And it was like I had peers at the same level as me. And what's the difference between what they did, having saved 100 grand, and a lot of them grew up middle class with decent family backgrounds. I didn't have that at all. I grew up with parents that were dirt poor. It's a long story. I don't want to get into it. But I grew up without all of the advantages that many of them had. And why today do I have 8 figures and they maybe have a couple 100,000? What happened? What did I do differently that you can do and you can learn from to be able to elevate yourself, right? And practice a lot of the things that I should be practicing this year too, like talking about diversity and risk management. Those are things skills that I've almost forgotten, especially this year when I'm playing with play money. I have a certain portfolio, like part of my portfolio is literally just like gambling play money, or hedge money. So if I have like a large real estate portfolio, my stock portfolio, I might short the market. And that's what I'm doing, by the way. I short the market 2-1. It's going horribly for me this year to date, but I'm going to stay true to that conviction and not flip flop. That's a hedge, though, if you think about it, when you have a huge real estate portfolio or another business that does well in prosperous times. So if that business isn't doing as well, your short position would be a hedge and it would cover, and it would be doing really well to inverse or offset. Strangely, though, the markets are irrational, and as they say, the markets can stay irrational longer than you can stay solvent. That is the line of thought. There is so much dumb money out there just chasing that. The greed to fear index is almost all the way on greed right now for this year to date. So that's something to be mindful of if you're investing in equities. I think real estate's a different story. We're going to chat about that in a second because it follows different cycles than the stock market. We're totally different conversations. Okay. I love you, bro. Thank you. Appreciate that. Martin, hey, how you doing? Dominic says, hello, sorry to hear bad news. Other question, real estate, how can you get more? Only one house or two houses whole life. Yeah, I mean, I think really it comes down to making different choices and being able to learn how to scale and take things to the next level. So how would I do it? I haven't really prepared or rehearsed this at all. It was like 25 minutes ago, 30 minutes ago that I was walking around the park and I got the idea for maybe an hour ago that I got the idea for tonight's stream. And I thought it might be valuable for my listeners and for the people watching the playback. If you're watching right now, hit that darn like button for me. Let's give it a little taparoo. I also have now on YouTube a subscriber model as well, where you can join in and subscribe, and I'm going to be dropping some unique types of content in there. And I just appreciate it if you can support the channel. I've turned monetization off. I'm turning it back on. I'm going to start reinvesting in this channel and creating more content for you guys as I begin to invest in that portion of the business that I haven't been. I've been neglecting it for like 5-6 years now. I've been producing content for nothing. And I'll continue to do that and produce more content for you for nothing. But I want to also have a way to monetize some of that. So shameless plug there. We do have ways to support the channel and to support what we're doing and help it become a sustainable, growing business that doesn't just require me to dump time and money into it with zero return. So I'd like to grow that, again, so I can have basically a staff or someone I can bring on to do video editing and to create more content, because I just don't love doing certain parts of it. And that's why I haven't made any pre-recorded videos in almost 2 years. So I'd like to be able to reinvest into the channel. And so anyway, that's coming. But, oh, hello. Thank you for the comments. I'm going to get into that in just a second about how you can buy more properties. A lot of people get caught up. They buy their first property. It's like, well, how did you get your first and second property? Well, of course, you saved, you scrimped, maybe you borrowed from family and friends, maybe you got a line of credit to get together that down payment, maybe you created some unique scenario with the person that you bought the property from, as maybe the seller had some equity in the property, you did vendor financing. I don't know how you got your first deal, but it's the exact same process to get the second and third. And if you bought the first and second properly, the equity for the second, third, and fourth is in the first and second. And so that's where I'm going to talk about mindset. I think a lot of people don't have the right mindset when they come into buying property, and it really has to be run like a business, and you have to run your numbers, in a way that allows you to grow. And that means that you can't just buy anything. Most properties aren't going to meet your metrics. Most landlords have the wrong properties. So when someone comes to me and says, hey, Mike, I got like 8 properties, and often I'll look at their portfolio and I'm like, hey, maybe it makes sense to sell these. These were not good buys. Sometimes they got lucky and they bought properties that appreciated. They could have made so much more than they did, but they made a lot. And it's like, would you buy this property at today's valuation? And they're always like, no, because why would I pay $1 million for said property that's bringing in no cash flow? And if I refinance to today's market rates and today's market valuations, I couldn't cash flow. I'm like, then why are you holding it? That's a bad asset. So we're gonna have to get around the mindset. That's the biggest thing, is like, if I had to start again, but I still have everything that I know now being just turned 30 years old, I've been in the game now, first property at 19. So I've been in the game for 11 years since I started my first fix and flip. And so 11 years I've been investing in real estate, getting my hands dirty initially. Now I'm more outsourced and scaled. But in the beginning, it was all about cost control. And that's what got me to where I am now. So if I had to rewind and start again, it's all about percentage of income spent. That's where you start. That's why the catchphrase at the end of every single video is like literally the 3 levers to control your financial futures: spend less, earn more, and maximize returns, and the difference in that order. Like when you're starting at 0, if you got a huge portfolio, we don't need to talk about spending less as much. That's not as important. It's more important for me to find ways to rejig your portfolio to unlock trapped equity that's sitting in a property doing nothing for you, that you can borrow out and redeploy and put it into more properties and better investments. That's the maximizing return piece. But if you're right now watching this video and you have like $5,000, doesn't matter what I tell you to invest in, $5,000 in Bitcoin, $5,000 in the S&P 500, $5,000 in real estate, it's not going to move the needle whether you get a 10% return or a 20% return. That's huge differences, by the way. Like a 10% compounded annual growth rate, or a CAGR, compared to a 20% return, is like the difference between Warren Buffett and the average investor. So like that's a huge difference over a long period of time. But with a small amount of money, it's not going to move the needle forward. What I need you to be doing is earning more money. You need to get that top line income up. Because if you're earning nothing right now, you got $5,000, you're planning to invest it and have it grow, it will grow over time for sure. But if you want to get there faster, you need to be finding ways to earn more money. And as you do that, I'm going to walk you through what I would do, because I use real estate. So for me, it's like, I think real estate gives me a huge competitive advantage. I'll give you an example. So I used to knock doors all the time. Whenever I buy a house, I go knock all the doors in the neighborhood and say, hey, I'm Mike. Great to meet you. I just bought the house down the street. We're turning it around. We're so excited. We're going to put a great family in this house. Or if I was moving into it, I'd say, hey, I'm just moving into this property. And that way you can make a good rapport with the neighbors. Say, hey, I'm in the business of buying properties. And I pay a fair valuation. And I know a lot of people in the industry who are looking to buy homes. If I can't buy it, I know someone who will buy your house. If you're ever thinking of selling, call me and I'll give them a business card. If you ever need anything at all, give me a call. Just making a connection with people. That has led to so many deals for me. Just dropping flyers, dropping letters, talking to people at real estate groups too. Like you go to a meetup group and there'll be 50 people at this meetup group. And if you can make yourself known and say, hey, I'm the guy who will find a solution to whatever your problem is. You find an investor who is just fatigued. He's tired of all his rental properties. You come in and say, hey, let's make a deal. You got this nasty fourplex. It's run down, whatever. You're telling me about all the problems. I'll come in. I'll take all the problems over. You got clogged toilets, you got bad tenants, you got bed bugs, you got a guy who's fighting with you, every night calling your phone. I'll take over all the stress. Tell them the property's sold to me. I'll come in, we'll partner 50-50. You continue to hold the property, we'll share in the profit. I'll turn this project around, I'll make it profitable for you, and you share in the profit with me. We sign a joint venture partnership agreement. Boom, you can turn this asset around, refinance it, sell it, reposition it, get yourself on title ideally to protect your equity. But you can go in there and have these conversations with landlords. There was a time where I was really tired of my portfolio, and the right young hungry person could have come into my life and said, hey, thinking from that mindset of like being that landlord with all those problems, if someone could come in and solve my problems, I would happily pay them in equity. I would probably happily have paid them, if they were as good as me, a 6-figure salary to solve all of my problems for me. So that's a big thing, I think, is mindset shift and finding opportunity. So if I was starting again from nothing tomorrow, I gotta think through, if I had no capital at all, first thing I would do is go get a job. I know it sounds horrible, but I think it's probably the safest way to get there for most of the people watching. If it's me, with everything that I know now, I wouldn't go get a job just because I could go out there and I could wholesale real estate. But I'm pretending that for someone watching this who doesn't have my network, I have a really good network. I know a lot of people. I have email lists with hundreds of realtors on it. I could I could go offer on MLS properties. Let's say I knew no one and I had no marketing. I had no wholesale skill. I could go find a couple realtors to start throwing out offers on. Say, hey, let's split the buyer's commission half, you and me. I'll write all the offers with you. We'll go offer on properties and we'll find someone who's new, right? An agent who doesn't have a lot of business. Go to them and say, hey, let's start looking at properties together. I'm going to buy 5 properties this year. Put an assignment clause in all of those deals. If you go offer 20% off all of the houses on MLS and you throw 20 offers in, it's a lot of work. It's like a full-time job, right? But you're doing that and you're throwing in all those offers. Ideally, you're doing this with a job at the same time because, again, you got to support yourself to live. And real estate takes a long time to basically create liquidity. So depends on where you're coming from right now. If you already got a full-time job, you do this on your lunch hour. You do this on your way to work and commute in traffic. On your way home, after work till 10 o'clock at night, you do appointments in the evening. On the weekends, same thing. So you've got to be hustling all the time to get that initial, deal flow started. But once you find deals, you can go pick something up on MLS we just bought a triplex, closed in early January in London, and with my cousin. And it's his first deal. I'm super excited for him, and he's working so hard. I'm so proud of everything that he's doing and watching him go through these steps and helping him go from, he's already a hero, but going from zero to hero. And watching him make his first 100 grand, his first 200, 300, 400 grand. We're gonna watch him. He's 19, so I'm gonna watch him, and I'm excited to watch that transformation with other mentees I've had over the years. When I used to do the full-time mentorship program in 2018, 2019, I brought people into my house that were working at Home Depot. I brought people in who had working at a restaurant who didn't have any background at all in real estate, and I watched them do their first 6 figures in deals. So I know it's doable. I've showed people how to do it. But basically, you go find a bunch of properties under contract, right? You lock those houses up under contract. You take I'm still alive. Cool. You take all those properties under contract. You just put $1,000 deposit down, right? If you can get a couple grand together, If you go to, that's why I say if you have a job. If you have a job, you go into every single bank right now. You go to BMO, TD, Scotia, pick like the 5 biggest banks, and you open a $10,000 personal line of credit, $20,000 personal line of credit. You say you're going back to school, you say it's to buy a car, you say it's to renovate your house, whatever you gotta say, you say something. Every bank right now you walk in has a promo where they'll offer you, even if you're starting a brand new business, let's say you're opening a graphic design business, hey, I'm making business cards for friends, they'll give you $10,000 line of credit. So you can get in there and get a personal unsecured line of credit. If you have a $50,000 a year salary, you want to get a job as a plumber or a contractor, swinging a hammer, doing demo work, you'll make like 25 bucks an hour. You make like, if you work hard, 40, 50 grand a year. That's a place to start. You can use that job after 6 months of being there to lock up mortgages and to go get some lines of credits at the banks. But you apply to all the banks at once. So 15,000, 15,000, 15,000, all at one time. They don't hit your credit rating. So it doesn't show up on your credit report for about 45 to 60 days. So you can set up like 6 lines of credit all at once. You can do the same thing with mortgages, by the way. It doesn't show up. And you don't have to disclose it because you haven't bought the property yet. You have to disclose all assets and liabilities you currently have. They never ask in the application, are you working on any properties under contract? Never ask that. So anyway, back to the story, or the comeback story is what I'm calling it. But basically recovering from nothing, how I would do it if you're just tuning in now and just joining the stream. But the idea is you get these properties under contract using, if you have some savings, that would be ideal. You know, if your parents could loan you a couple of grand, that's ideal. Say, hey, I need a couple of grand. I'm trying to buy some properties. Explain what you're doing. I'm going to assign them to investors. At the same time as you're locking up deal flow, you need to go into every single real estate Facebook group, every single real estate, local networking group, and going to all those meetings. There's like one a week in every city. And there is a group in every city. So don't try to say, hey, my city doesn't have one. And if it doesn't, you should start one in your city because that would give you some crazy authority. And there's lots of real estate investors in every city. So it's not a problem to find them. They exist. If you don't have one in your city, you will. But even if you don't, go find a business networking group. There's so many business and entrepreneur groups in every city. Go to all of them. I guarantee you'll find them online. You call around, call some realtors, call some entrepreneurs, say, hey, is there any business community that meets up, on a weekly or monthly basis? When are those meetings? Join those clubs. Start talking to people with money, investors, because there's a lot of money out there and it doesn't know where to go. It doesn't know, hey, Michael Chong. Michael Chong was one of my first few mentees, so good to see you on, Chong. Back to the story. So you're going to try to find buyers for your deals that you can assign them to or partner with on, and then start locking things up under contract. And if you throw out 10 good offers, you gotta learn how to analyze properties, and there's whole videos I could do on how you analyze a property, how do you decide if it's a good enough property. Often it relates to the cash flow and the comparable analysis. So does it produce really strong cash flow, or can it produce really strong cash flow with reposition? 2, if the property is undervalued, then you're bringing something that's potentially more valuable than your assignment fee. If you could find a $300,000 property for $240,000, that's like a 20% discount off retail typically. And those can be found on MLS, especially right now. And oftentimes, I've been throwing in offers. I'm working on one right now. I'm super, super close on it. It's almost 20 units in Florida here, like a nice apartment building right off the beach, nice hotel. And we're trying to do a 3-year master lease where literally I come in and rent the units and I reposition and then I buy them out with an option to take them out. This is a great way to get into a property without a lot of money down, without any financing. The seller or the vendor carries vendor financing. So you get in there with potentially no money down or very little money down. And if you buy the right kind of deal, sometimes you can get them to convince to do a second mortgage for 70, 80 grand. And if you get the bank to put on a mortgage for 200, let's say, because the property appraises at 300, you're buying at 240, you get a bank mortgage at say 220, you only need to put 20 grand down. And then you can use your lines of credit to do that. Potentially you could use investor capital to do that. You bring that to that buyer list. Those people you've met you go to networking events, you say, hey, I'm wholesaling. I'm buying a lot of properties under market value. So, hey, if I had a property right now under contract that was a nice duplex, cash flow positive, that was doing $2,500 a month in rent, and I get you that for $240,000, would that be something you'd be interested in? And almost every investor is going to be like, yeah, send me more information on that. Some of them might want to partner with you on it because they don't want to do the hard work, in which case you're just starting out. So you'll, of course, manage the renovation. You'll, of course, manage the tenant selection and the property management pieces that are attached to all that slugging for 50% of the deal equity and bringing none of the money. And the partners will bring all of the money, and you'll bring all of the management and expertise, making it passive for the partner. The partner's happy because you're like, hey, here's a plan for me to take this property from 240. It's already worth 300. We're going to renovate in it. We're going to invest in it. We're going to basically reposition these units. We're going to re-rent them out, and it's going to be worth 340. Now, here's the plan to get there. And we got to spend 30,000 to get there. So we're all in for 270. It's worth 340. Now we can go back to the bank because the person you're partnered with, they have capital, right? And they can go back to the bank and they can refinance that, no problem. They probably have a good portfolio, good income. You can pull out capital so that both you and them both aren't in a position of having any money in the deal. That's what I call an infinite money deal. It's called a BRRRR deal, but I call it the infinite money deal because that's where like my investors are like, what's the ROI? And I'm like, when we partner up, my goal is like, how long till we both have no money in the deal? You as the money partner, how long till you have nothing in the deal? And often that's under 3 years is what I target and what I strive to get. By the way, another super chat. Thanks so much. I will. Fred says, Fred, good to see you on. Fred Winslow's been in the comments for the last couple of years. I've seen his name pop up. So can you catch us up here? So basically I'm doing, to understand, I haven't lost it all. I'm doing a video, if I had lost it all, how would I come back? I'm down a little bit this year, like my stock portfolio, my crypto portfolio, it's hurting a little bit. D-How-To, thank you. Please hit the like button if you're watching this. You're one of the 75 people. There's been 150 people that have tuned into the stream so far tonight. Hit that like button. If you're watching the replay and you're one of the thousands of people who are going to watch this, hit that like button, share it around. It helps the algorithm if you stay on and you continue to watch the video a little bit longer. I appreciate it. If you found some value here, send it to someone. If you have someone who's 20 years old watching this and you're like, hey, this is how you can elevate. I'm showing you one of the keys to the kingdom to do that. So you can partner with people and you get equity positions. I did a lot of these deals where I put no money in. I found the deal, and the thing that I brought to the investor was the deal. And they didn't know how to find that. They couldn't find that. They had the time to find it. Whatever reason, you can bring that to people and you can solve a problem. Because people with money are wondering, where do they put it? I have that problem right now. I'm like, where do I put all my capital to best deploy it and utilize it? And so it's a problem that wealthy people have. And so, yeah, so today's video is about that. I haven't lost it all. I've had a bad year to date. So since January 1st this year, it's been a little bit rough as far as, the stock market is concerned, crypto is concerned. Real estate's actually down quite a bit too, but I'm largely unaffected. I keep significant reserves in bonds and in cash right now to be able to do real estate deals. So I'm okay right now. I still have a large net worth. I haven't lost it all, but I'm sharing with you, I was thinking through, like I've watched my net worth drop a few $1 million, and it isn't even touching my FIRE number. Like I have a FIRE portfolio that's set aside that produces financial independence, retire early income, that's passive income that I can live on forever. I never bet the farm on that. But I do have an investment portfolio that was like my growth money that is not doing well right now. And so I thought through like what would happen if I had to start again. And it's one of those things where, and yes, I am, by the way, if you're joining this right now, you're seeing we are in a trailer. I'm in a trailer right now. It's a nice trailer. It's a 1-bedroom trailer. There's a bedroom down the hall and a bathroom. It is my in-laws' trailer here in Florida. We're going to be staying here tonight. One, because I wanted my kids they have fun at the trailer park here. So like it's not a bad experience for them at all. They're hanging out with other kids out there. But I'm walking around looking at the low-income people living in a trailer park, and it reminds me of where I came from. And it reminds me of, both my parents are broke effectively, or were broke when I was growing up. And so I learned what it was like to grow up without, and that created fire for me and hunger, and it allowed me to be cost competitive and to work harder and to achieve more. And I know a lot of people go through that environment and they come out of, like a foster care situation and they become communists and they want to rely on the system. I didn't come out that way. I came out like, hey, money is so important and it's all you focus on when you have none. And it reminded me of the importance of building that financial base. So that's why when I was 17 years old and I went off to school in my dorm room, I'm like, all I'm focused on is like, how do I climb the corporate ladder? At the time, that's what I thought when I was going to business school. I thought I had to get a good job because that would lead me down a path of anti-poverty, away from what I grew up with. So anyway, I'm talking to you guys today about strategies to avoid that, right? What would I do if I had to start again? And one of the paths that I would use to get there is just go get a job for the first 6 months, a year, and use that as an ability to, one, save money, because you need to build up a savings. It helps to build up a savings. But if you don't have that, again, you can wholesale. Let's say you couldn't find a partner for that deal. You didn't want a partner for that deal. You wanted just to do volume. You can grab that deal at 240, bring it to investors and say, hey, I will sell you this deal for 260. Call the investors, say, hey, what do you think about a property that can rent for $2,500 a month that's worth $300,000 right now as it is, a beautiful property? You show them pictures, a video, you put together a nice little package for them. And this investor says, I don't want to partner. I want to do this myself. I'm growing my portfolio. You be the sourcer of the deal. You bring that deal to them. They will pay you a $10,000 or $20,000 wholesale fee. On your $1,000 deposit, that's a 20x return. On your time, if you can do one of those a month, if you're throwing out enough offers, you can do one of those a month. That's $20,000 a month. That's $240,000 a year in your first year. Now you're gonna pay a little bit of tax on that. So I prefer, instead of wholesaling, I say, hey, if they agree to it, I try to find a partner. Say, hey, can I have an equity position in this deal instead of a wholesale fee? Or some people are greedy enough, and some investors are willing to pay it. They charge a wholesale acquisition fee. It's very common. They'd say, I'll take $5,000 now up front for finding the deal, and then I'll get a slice of the equity and I'll do all the work. I'll do the management, the renovation, all of that. We'll reposition this asset and we'll come up with a plan. We'll joint venture partner on it. You want title with them. They help qualify for the mortgage. They put all the capital up. They're the money partner. There's 3 pieces to a deal: money, people, deal, right? The people is the management. So you've got your money, which is about 1/3 of the value of the deal. If you have a good deal, the deal's worth 1/3 of the deal. And if you've got the management, the systems, the people, understanding how to do all that, you can learn all that. You can watch enough of these videos online. You can learn how to go through a renovation. You can bring in subcontractors. Even if it's your first time, if you go in there and you just get 3-4 quotes for flooring, 3-4 quotes for painting, 3-4 quotes for handyman, you will find the better people and the worst people, and you just pick the lower cost people initially. The lower cost people are going to come with more stress, more headaches, but that's your job when you're starting out, is to manage those contractors. Some of them are going to walk, they're going to have drug problems, all of that's part of the real estate game when you're dealing with the more affordable contractors that are currently available. Like if you're closing a deal in 4 weeks and they're available, they're probably not the best contractor ever. They're probably like a mid-grade contractor. So you're going to deal with those headaches and those challenges. I'm not going to pretend that it isn't, there isn't challenges and struggles, but whenever you're starting any business or whenever you're starting any journey, there's going to be struggle. And if you want no struggle at all, you're not going to be better than other people. You're not going to have better than other people. The average person amounts to nothing in their life. Sadly, as far as financially is concerned, they don't build a nest egg at 7-8 figures. They don't unlock financial independence. They work their whole lives. I'm saying I'd be willing to sacrifice the next 3 years. If I had to start again, I'm 30 years old. I just turned 30. So, if I had to do it again, 3 years, by 33, I'd be financially independent again. I'd have over $1 million easily. I did this before on a stream where I walked through the analysis, and I'll do it again for you guys. But the first couple deals to generate some capital, you could wholesale stuff. $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 fee. If you can lock up 3 of those, 1 a month, in my current state, like knowing what I know now with all my tools and templates, without any of the money, if I just knowing what I know and having all the tools and network that I have now, I can do 1 a week. So I can make $10,000, $20,000 a week if I had to start again, just assigning deals to people. And sometimes, like I did an assignment once that was $400,000. I signed a big building that was effectively $400,000 Canadian. For those people watching in US, that's like, 300,000 USD. That was a huge payout, and that was one of many deals. You can often make really great payouts. You can find a great building and you can sell it to someone. So if you can find a $6 million building for $4.5 million with vendor financing, okay, we're having a great conversation about value. You can bring it to someone and they say, wow, you did all that work and you found this opportunity. That opportunity is worth more than the down payment. The down payment to buy that $5 million building, that $1 million, is worth less than the paper that I have under contract. That contract, when it's inked and firm and assignable, is sometimes worth $500,000. So you can lock up properties under asset. It really is something that baffles some people when I tell them about, wholesale assignment, which is the idea that you get a property under contract and you assign that contract to someone else, either for equity or for, a fee. And so that's I think the best way to get started. But let's say you're doing it, all on your own. You could just wholesale, make those fees. You can work a full-time job. Within a year at a full-time job, if you're living frugally, you go rent hack, right? Like rent hacking is the idea. I'll go find like a 4-bedroom house for rent. Let's say I have no money to buy a house yet. I can't house hack yet. House hack is like living in a duplex, triplex, and having the other units cover all your living expenses. So you have to deal with having shared accommodation effectively. Like you have a bachelor apartment for yourself, and maybe you have someone above you and someone below you in a basement apartment. It's like apartment living. It's not maybe ideal, but it's allowing you to live for free because all the expenses are paid by the tenants, and then you can just save all of the income that you make and reinvest that. And that's the key, is reinvesting. Every dollar you invest now, 10, 20 years from now, is like 5 to 10-fold if you invest it smartly. So it's really important to save every dollar now and be super frugal on the start of your journey. At the towards the tail end of your journey, you can ball out. You can get a Lambo and live in a nice mansion if you want to. It's most important at the start of your journey, not to reward yourself with luxuries. You need to be very frugal and efficient and focused on investing and growing and investing everything back into yourself and the business. And investing in yourself is important too, by the way, guys. If you're just starting this, you don't have the knowledge. Like I have the knowledge already. I've had to learn through failure all that I know. I had contractors come to my wife when she was almost 9 months pregnant and basically take her with a weapon to the bank and get her for money with blackmail and coercion. That's the kind of stuff I've dealt with in this journey. I pushed myself so hard one time that I was sick and I was pushing myself for 2 rental deadlines. I had to make them both deadlines to get the refinances done in time to pay for the next deal that was closing. And so I was working a 8 to 5 job. And after work, I was going to the rental property till 12, 1, 2 in the morning. And I was pushing myself so hard that I got really sick and I ended up in the hospital. It's happened twice to me. So I've pushed myself beyond what is, what you should be able to do to your body. I put myself I would do 120 hours in a week. That's 3 full-time jobs that I would work in a week. And it's doable. It's not sustainable for a long period of time, but for a while I can do that. and then I invest that capital, and it's grown over time. That's how I was able to grow from nothing to what I have today so quickly and so fast, is that I'll outwork my competitor. And that's how I win. That's how you always win, is you outwork them. You work smarter, of course, find ways to work smarter. But anyway, to summarize all that, you can learn a lot of what I've learned from people like me who have done it. You can find courses, you can find masterminds, you can pay for, an hour of someone's time or take someone to lunch and have a lot of those knowledge bombs distilled in a short amount of time. So that would be another way you could grow really quick too. But really the key is finding that and starting that snowball. Because once you have your first property, let's say you bought that property and you're able to save up enough down payment, you did a couple of wholesales, you find something else. We'll use that same example, $300,000 property for 240 grand. You close on it, let's say the bank appraises it. Oftentimes the bank won't give you the full market value. They'll see what you bought the contract for. And so you either you close with hard money and then go back and refinance to the bank, or you just take the lower valuation, because the appraiser is always going to give you, especially if it's on market. If it's off market, the appraiser might not know the price because you just don't disclose it, and they might lend you a little higher against the appraised value. But usually you have to go buy it and then restabilize it, fix it up, make it nice, and then reappraise it a few months later at a much higher valuation. And your new mortgage takes out your old mortgage and gives you a bunch of cash back. That's called the BRRRR. It's like a wedge deal, or it's called a lot of people call that too like a arbitrage deal. But the arbitrage or the wedge or the lift deal that lets you lift into the next property, that's how you got to do it. You got to be buying stuff that is undervalued, that needs love, that needs attention. You can go in there and fix that. Problems are what you're looking for. You're looking for the tired landlord. You're looking for the person who just wants to cash out. You're looking for the wealthy person who might be selling because they can't handle the property anymore. And they might give you financing too, in which case you don't have to go to the bank at all. They might give you a 2% mortgage in this environment, or they might have a mortgage on it for 3% that you can assume. Especially in the US, mortgages are assumable. So when you buy the property, if they have a big mortgage on it, you can assume that mortgage. All you have to do is just, it might not have to qualify in some cases. The mortgage automatically goes with the property. They'll just assume it to the next buyer. You just got to personally guarantee it. So sometimes you can walk into a property for very little money down, or you can bring a partner in so you have no money down. And you can be in a situation where you can turn that asset around and pull cash out of it tax-free. Because if you haven't sold the asset, there's no tax. You can pull out cash tax-free. And that allows you to grow really quick, really fast. So I like real estate for that reason, because you can show in the first couple of years you own that rental property on paper losses as you're stabilizing it and investing in the maintenance and the CapEx schedule, and you maybe don't have it rented at first. So there's some losses to offset your day job income. So if you're working a $50,000 a year job, that can be completely tax-free with one rental property. That rental property creates losses that offset the day job income. So you're now working at a job tax-free. That's a sweet setup. So in the first couple of years, real estate allows you to defer tax till you eventually sell that asset. In a capital gain, there'll be a tax down the road. But again, capital gains are half tax-free, half are taxed to your marginal bracket. So capital gains are a great way to build wealth because they're half tax-free. Also, you don't have to pay a capital gain. You can kick down the can for 20 years if you wanted to and just keep refinancing out. You can refinance out more than you put into it. And so now you've got a surplus cash to go on to the next deal. And that was how one of my first ever videos was how I bought, I think it was 10 properties in under 3 years. And today, like, I could do 20 properties in a year because of what I know, but I didn't know what I didn't know back then. Back then I went to the bank and I did the A-lender and I maxed out my 10 personal mortgages. I didn't know about corporate financing. I didn't know that you could open corporations and do 5 properties in each corporation. I didn't know there was even lenders that went up to 100 rental properties inside of your corporation. A lot of people have limited mindsets about debt service, and it's like, well, in the commercial space, 4 units and above, or any type of commercial financing, it's a little bit more expensive. The interest cost might have to put a little bit more down, but you're in a situation where you can go in there, you can qualify for a limited number of properties because the property qualifies itself. They're servicing that deal, not on your personal income. They don't care if you have personal income. They care more about, can the property sustain the debt servicing and all the expenses associated. And if it's a strong cash flow property, the right kind of property, you can buy an unlimited number of those. So that's part of how I would start again. I think in the first year, it'd be tough. When I mapped it, I'd be like 200,000 net worth end of year 1, probably 500,000 end of year 2, year 3, 800, 900,000, year 4, 1.5 million, year 5 will be 3 million. It starts to scale really quick on the BRRRR method. And it does slow down because you'll reach like the 3 to 6 million range, will probably be a bit of a slowdown. You just start hiring people and building teams and systems, and you can slow down a little bit through those hurdles if you're just learning. Now, if you have a great coach or a great mentor, I wish I did. I'm still looking for that right person. So by the way, guys, if anyone knows someone who's like a really nice 8 or 9 figure entrepreneur that might be open to taking a hardworking mentee under them, I'd be open to that. I'd be willing to pay, 6 figures for the right opportunity. I'd just partner with someone who's like just an awesome player to learn what they know. There's value in that. So that's something that I'm always cognizant of in growing my own self, from 8 figures to 9 figures, and eventually 9 figures to 10 figures is inevitable. At my age, I'm so young that if I just continue to grow my net worth and I don't mess anything up, I don't make any enormous big mistakes and continue to compound and grow at 12, 13% a year, I hit billionaire in my 60s. So it's like, I'm going to be a billionaire. That's the fact. That's going to happen. As long as I don't shit the bed. And like for the last 10 years, I've sustained a triple digit growth rate across my net worth. It's grown every year, except for last year, every year by almost 100% for like multiple years in a row. And that was mostly because of real estate and leverage. Leverage makes good deals great, right? People like, oh, the Dave Ramsey folks that jump on here, they'll be like, hey, leverage, avoid leverage, is dangerous. And leverage can be dangerous, especially on a stock portfolio. And especially if you're buying bad deals, bad quality deals. But if you're buying deals that self-service the debt, mortgage debt is non-callable, which means they can never call the debt on you. As long as you make your payments, they'll never call the debt. You can have it for as long as you want. They can't retract it. With stock, if your stock falls and you have a stock loan or margin loan against it, they could call your debt and ask you to sell some of your position. That never happens in real estate. So in real estate, if you're buying quality assets that produce great cash flow, that can service all the debt, you're in really, really good shape for being able to service that debt and hold that property for as long as you need to. And that's where leverage is really sexy, because the question I ask people that is the simplest way to explain leverage is like, would you rather one property paid off or 5 properties 20% down? And some people say one property paid off, and I help them think through that. I'm like, okay, but what would that one property paid off make you? And they're like, oh, well, then I would have no mortgage payment, so I'd have property taxes, insurance, utilities, whatever. Okay, I'm gonna make $2,000 rent on that property. I'm gonna make $600 cash flow. Well, let's run that same analysis through these 5 with the mortgage payments. Oh, well, instead of $600 in cash flow, I'm gonna make $180 cash flow. That's way less. I'm like, but 5 times 180 is way more. And if it appreciates 10%, what happens? These 5 assets worth $200,000 a piece are worth $1 million. If it appreciates 20%, your portfolio is worth $1.2 million. You just made $200,000 in appreciation. That same appreciation happens over a 5-year period. Let's say 3, 4, 5% a year, even 3% a year compounding over a period of 5 years. That is almost 20% interest, appreciation. Sorry. With one property, your $200,000 property, because you put $200,000 cash to buy this, versus this one you put 20% down, right? It's the same amount of money to buy 5 properties 20% down, or 1 paid off. But people have this mental barrier that like paying off a property is a good thing. You never want to pay off a property. As you build equity in the property, you refinance that property, pull that equity out, and buy another cash flow strong asset. And if that asset, now refinanced, can't cover all of the debt associated with it, it's the wrong asset. Sell it and buy something better. Pay a little tax, unfortunately, but that's how you rebalance a portfolio and you build wealth at scale. And that's how you build wealth fast too. Because again, you have that leverage, making good deals great. If your ROI on the property, if your cap rate of the property is a 6 and you're borrowing at a cost of debt of 3, back when interest rates were lower, now interest rates are like 5, 6. So you really need like a 9 or 10 cap rate for it to make any sense. But you need a spread between your cost of debt and your return on asset on the cap rate on the property, which is effectively the rental income divided by the price of the property. So that's how you calculate your cap rate. And the stronger the cap rate, the better the property is. In general, that's the rule of thumb. So the more income you can create from the property, the more the property is worth to an investor. And in general, that's how you basically value real estate, is based on its cash flows. Single family properties are different. They mostly rely on comparable analysis. But the more cash flow, the better. And every market's different. So if you're looking at like Jacksonville, Florida, versus Miami. In Miami, you would expect like a 3 or 4 cap rate. Whereas for a nice quality property that's, a nice gem in your portfolio versus, a property that's in Jacksonville a little rougher, maybe you're looking at a 10 cap. And the reason that the cap rate or the income it's generating per price dollar you're paying for that asset is 3 times more in Jacksonville is because it's the slums in Jacksonville. Jacksonville's rough everywhere you go. And so that property produces much more cash flow, but you're dealing with a lot more headaches, and it's a less quality property, and it probably won't appreciate as fast either. And so people like to hold quality properties. And so it's for each person their own, but most major metropolitan cities don't lend themselves well to cash flow. And so I would say if you're in a major metropolitan city, go outside, go to the suburbs, pick another market close by where you can build a strategic advantage, where you can do this strategy. Now, once you built up a capital base, you can do it in major metropolitans. You can flip properties still. There's just not as much cash flow there, and so the risk is higher on that opportunity. If you have capital to park, people like to park in those quality assets, again, because they get that long-term appreciation. They feel good about it in their portfolio, but it's not a great place to build wealth when you're first starting out. It's maybe an okay place to park wealth in the beginning, You could, if you're flipping, this is a more advanced strategy, but if you're flipping properties, and I don't like to flip because flipping is risky. With a buy and hold, if you don't pull all the equity out, let's say you mess up and you overspend on renovations your first deal, you can just hold that property and cash flow positive. It's no big deal. Trap a little bit of equity, takes you an extra year to buy another property. That property might take you 2-3 years to get your equity out of it, but eventually you get all your money out of the property. It will produce enough cash flow that eventually you will pull all the money you put into it out in less than 5-6 years. Ideally, you pull it out in your first year. Everything you put in, you pull it back out and you keep the property. And all the equity left in the property is created equity from buying smart, renovating smart, repositioning. All of that is just how you value add effectively. But buy smart. That's the most important thing you can do if you're starting again. You've got to learn how to buy smart assets. The difference between buying smart and not buying smart is like a 300% difference in ROI over a 5-year period. It's substantial. And so that's where most people go wrong. Even good real estate investors that I know who have large portfolios, some of them don't know how to buy smart. They bought a lot and it appreciated a ton and they made a lot of money, but they weren't buying smart. And they could have made so much more money. And so that's, I don't want to shit on, or poo-poo, I guess you'd say. I don't want to poo-poo on investors who are, I know investors that have lots of money, multi-millionaires, and they're not smart people. They don't invest well. They don't make, and I'm not poo-pooing on them. I'm just saying that they could have so much more. So I want that for you guys. Don't look up to people who don't analyze deals well. You want to grow quickly. You want to grow fast and be able to retire earlier. And that's how I would do it while managing risk. And I think cash flow allows you to manage risk really, really well. So I focus on cash flow positive properties with multiple exit opportunities. Hopefully that gave you an idea how I do it. I'm gonna go to the Q&A real quick because there's a lot of questions here, a lot of super chats. So Fred, I promised that your super chat was 14 bucks. Really appreciate that. It tells the YouTube algorithm you're getting value from this. So if you guys can hit the like button, if you can tell the YouTube algorithm you're getting value from this, that would mean a lot to me. Fred says, can you catch us up? So you sold your properties, you're buying the Bahamas, community development, Orlando Harry Potter house. This was a long time ago, actually. The Kissimmee property was that might have been like 3 years ago now. We actually sold that property. I don't even want to talk about it, but we sold the property during COVID after like the fatigue of being shut down, having no cash flow. We disposed of the asset. Unfortunately, the asset appreciated in value by 100% almost. Post us selling it for like a tiny profit. You have to carrying costs. I don't even know if we made a profit. That one was horrible during COVID. I ended up just washing our hands of that deal, unfortunately. But where am I at now? So I built a huge portfolio up in I quit my job in 2016 December. I stayed on to finish 2 consulting projects with the company until 2017 February, I guess, in that range. And then I blew up. I took some time off. I retired for a bit. I relaxed. I just had my like 10 or 12 properties. It was pretty passive. Everything was pretty set up on those properties, so I was chilling. And then I got bored. And then I got hungry, and I wanted to have more. And I had certain people come in my life at that time that convinced me that, I think I had maybe $1 million or $1.5 million years old. I was 24 years old. Feel like I had the world. I was at home with my daughter full time. My firstborn daughter, we only had one at the time. And my wife I was getting her to quit her job, so she went back for a couple of months to vest her maternity leave. She didn't want to lose that because they paid her while she was on maternity leave. So she went back for 3 months to finish that, and then she quit her job too. And we've been retired, I guess, ever since. But I went back into full entrepreneur mode. And in 2018, to catch you up, we did 50, 60 deals in 1 year. I was the biggest buyer of off-market properties in London, Ontario. In that year, I think I did the most off-market deals, and we did a lot. It was a lot, too much, too fast. I had 40, 50 contractors working for us at one point. My phone was blowing up. I was running from site to site. We had 15, 20 properties being renovated at one given time. So I was walking from site to site, driving around all day long. It was chaotic and stressful. We built a lot up in that time. Unfortunately, I sold a lot of those properties before the market ripped up because London didn't appreciate until 2018, 2019, 2020. Really, 2021 was the biggest up year London had ever had. And I disposed a lot of my assets. However, I continued to buy for myself through that time. So I think I had maybe 15 properties or something, 15, 20 properties. And I cycled through some of those properties, sold some, bought some others. In 2022, January, which is basically 13 months ago, I sold almost everything off. I have my mansion estate, I have my cottage, and I have a couple of rental properties left. And then I have 8 flips in my corp that we're currently doing. That's where I'm currently at real estate wise. And then we have 4 or 5 properties in Florida that we're doing as well. And I have a large crypto and real estate portfolio as well as stock portfolio, dividend portfolio. And then I have a growth portfolio that I day trade and play with. That's kind of where I'm sitting. And I have a whole bunch of money lent out in first mortgages all over the place. So I do a lot of lending and I finance people's deals. So that's where I'm at right now to help you understand, the picture of where I'm at now. I will be going to the Bahamas at some point. It's coming. I'm going there actually this year, the next couple of months probably, to set up a Bahamas corporation. I want to start doing all my YouTube, my mentorship, my coaching stuff, all that business, that active stuff, that wholesale stuff from the Bahamas, active from a Bahamas corp, because again, there's no sales tax on the stuff that we're doing in the coaching piece. So I got to talk to a professional about that, but I want to structure things to future proof and be in a position where when I move to the Bahamas at some point, you have to live in the Bahamas 91 days a year, over 90 days a year. So 3 months a year, you got to live there to keep your tax residency. So keep your tax residency there. You file no personal tax returns in the Bahamas. There is no tax return filing. So for me, that would be an optimized, to catch you up, Fred, that would be an optimized life because let's say you own stocks in the S&P 500. You can hold stocks, they appreciate 100%. You can sell them capital gains tax-free, income tax-free. If they're in your personal name or in a certain structure in the Bahamas, you can avoid tax entirely. You can still go to the US and Canada. I could spend 5.5 months in Canada, and I could spend 3 months in Miami or West Palm Beach. West Palm Beach to the Bahamas is 60 miles. It's like a 30-minute flight. It's like an hour and a half boat ride. So it's very close. It's almost like in 30 minutes you can commute back and forth. You go there Monday to Thursday, and then on the weekend, or Monday to Thursday be in Florida, and on the weekends, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, you could be in the Bahamas, go back and forth, and be tax-free. Because again, you're living in the Bahamas, you're centered in the Bahamas, tax-free setup. So that's where I'm moving towards. But I got 3 kids, and it's a lot to disconnect from our social ties. And so I'm working towards that goal. Whether I'll get there this year, next year, the year after, I don't know. In fact, this year I have so many losses from my stock and crypto portfolios and my mining business that I don't even have to pay any tax at all. I can make another $1.5 million tax-free because I can use all those losses. So I'm not even in a rush to leave. I've already paid a ton of tax, and I got more to pay, but I have time. So that's to catch you up where I'm at. It's been a bad year to date. I've been shorting the market 2 to 1, and the market has had a really good, strong out of the gate push in the tech space. I've been shorting the tech stocks, so that's been painful. And it inspired this video. It's like, well, what if I actually started with nothing? Someone asked me that, and they keep asking me that. And it's like, it's insignificant. I'm gambling with that money effectively, right? And I'm not really. To me, it's hedging. So if those tech stocks dive down, right, it's because interest rates and inflation get out of control, which is a real possibility, by the way. I think the market, I've had so many people tell me last year and this year, the second half of this year, rates are coming down. I currently am betting, I have a $2.5 million short. I'm currently betting that the market will not pivot early and that we have more pain ahead and that inflation might run up a little bit before we finally beat it down to 2% and that we may stay elevated for longer. This might be a 2 or 3 year interest rate pain time. And so I'm betting as a hedge because I have a good real estate portfolio, I have an active business. I'm doing a lot of stuff on that side that really prospers. If real estate does well, if interest rates come down, if the market's strong, I win in that area. But over here, I want to have basically a counter hedge. And so I use that. I know, and I share a lot of my Instagram stories at Mike Rosehart. I share 8 times, 10 times a day on my stories there. So if you want solid gold stories, I've shared 25,000 posts on Instagram in the last 5 years. I do 10 a day, every day. That's 3,600 posts a year. I know people that have saved 1,000 screenshots on my stories and use that as basically a course. That's how much free content I give. What I give on here on YouTube, I give on Instagram every day. And so if you aren't following on Instagram, you should be. Facebook as well. Facebook, they gave me the blue check mark, so that's how you'll find me there. Instagram, I don't have the blue check mark, so be careful of the fake accounts. Find the real deal. You'll go to my stories. You'll the fakers can't keep up with how many times I post. So you'll know it's me about the story posts. You'll know it's me by looking at the picture dates. If you go click on all the posts, what date were they posted? The fakers all post the photos all at the same date, within 2 months ago. My posts go back 5 years. So it's easy to tell what's a real account, what's a fake account. Okay, so let's see here about some more of these questions. I got to catch you back up here. I love East Coast Florida. Love what we're doing in Florida. There's so much opportunity here. It's just there's 2 hotels for sale in Southwestern Ontario in total. That's it. There's 2 opportunities, and we're all fighting over it. And you go in Florida here, and there's 200 properties that are all $5-10 million posted. There's just so many more deals. There's so much more happening. The entire population of Canada pretty much fits inside of this little sliver in Florida. So that's something to think through and why I'm drawn to doing business down here. Because it's just so much easier and better to do business down here. So that's a big draw for me. But I think I caught you up. I'm fine. Haven't lost at all. I've lost a bit. I've lost more than some people make in their entire lives in the past 12 months. Past 12 months, I've lost probably $2 million, which it's not that big relative. If you have if you have a big portfolio, if you have a $10 million portfolio and it's down 20%, that's $2 million, right? Like, it's not, depending on how rich you are. Like, I have friends who message me like, man, that's nothing. Like, I have one friend who's like, you lost $2 million. Like, who cares? It's like a rounding error for you. Should be a rounding error for you. And it's not, because like $2 million is so much money. But, you know, that's a mindset thing, right? So as you elevate, you begin to think through and find ways to just make so much more money when you think through. And it's also just a, you know, I'm just going to make this comment, but I used to be so frugal that I would stand in line for 45 minutes to save $5 on a coupon on something. I had to wait in line for an hour to get it. And now it's like I just do a coaching call and make $800. And it's hard to want to stand in line now when my time is so limited and so valuable. And so that's been, as you evolve along the financial spectrum and you begin to build over time, if you look at a correlation of age to wealth, you get richer over time. Everyone gets richer over time. Usually it looks like this, and it just peaks. You'd think in retirement people go down, but just if you look at the aggregate of all wealth on average, the rich just keep getting richer all the time. Everyone builds wealth over time. The more time you have to build wealth, the more you have. And so just over time, you have less and less life left because you live to be, what, 80, 90 years old? And I'm like going through a midlife crisis right now thinking, geez, I'm 30 years old now. Like, what? Mike just turned 30. And it's like, how many more good years do I have left? And so part of me is like, I'm okay to spend a little bit to have a good night and have a good meal. And, you know, and yeah, here I am staying in this trailer. You know, it's a one, tomorrow night we'll be in a hotel, but I was trying to save some money tonight. Moreover, I was trying to teach my kids that it's okay to, you know, like it's okay to not be spoiled, to not have luxury, and that like life is still good if you have good social connections. If you have like the things that are valuable in life are not, you know, the house, like who cares what you live in really? I mean, it makes life a little bit better having a nicer house and nicer amenities. Like I would love to have air conditioning on right now, to be honest. Like the ceiling fan is you see my face, how hot I am. It's hot here in Florida. It's like 28 degrees Celsius today, which is like in the 80s, high 80s, I think. I'm trying to do the math to Fahrenheit. Probably high 80s, I don't know, mid 80s. That's hot. And like I'm sure I would love to have, you know, air conditioning on right now, but that's putting myself through these conditions teaches me and reminds me of the value of money and how valuable money is. And I respect every dollar that I have. Every dollar is a soldier, and I want to put it to work. And I'm still young enough that every dollar I put to work now will still grow and multiply into 10x. So just by investing in basic stuff, if I invest it smartly in real estate and I roll it from project to project and I pull the money out and put it into the next deal, every time you pull money out of a project in full, when you've pulled all the money out of the project, it's 100% ROI. It's an infinite ROI. When you put 100 grand into a rental property as a down payment, and then a year later you fix the building up, 50 grand in renovations, you're in it for 150 grand, and you get a refinance that pays out the old mortgage and has a surplus of say 160 grand, you have negative $10,000 in that deal. That's an infinite money glitch. And now you're getting cash flow every month from that property. The bank has more money in the deal than you put in total. Like the more than the purchase price and the renovations. That's a win. That's how you buy smart. That's how you build real wealth. You can do the same thing in business. You can buy businesses and turn them around. I just think buying businesses is riskier and harder. It's really hard to fuck up with real estate, or to mess up with real estate. It really is. Like, even if you're bad at renovating, even if you're bad at managing, like you can turn it around, and the asset still has the value of the land, the value of the building. It's just hard to mess up in the same way. In the business, you buy the wrong business, and it's got 3 key staff, and they hate you and they leave, and they tank your business. You're done. Your business is worthless. The business has value because of the staff. The staff are the value in the business. Whereas in real estate, you can plug and play property managers. Like one property manager's bad, put in a new one. One contractor's bad, plug and play a new one. It's hard to mess it up. Each rental property is a business. You file a T776 tax return for the property. Each one is its own individual business. But at aggregate, at scale, I think that it's one of those things where we really have a competitive advantage and very minimized risk. So I like the fact that you can really make a great return in real estate. It is like a business. You can manage it efficiently. You can lean in with your time, and you have control. In the stock market, you don't have control. You can't control what management does. Someone embezzles money or steals something, or bad employees, or something happens. You can't control that. With your rental property, we go into a market where there's not a lot of tenants, where there's high vacancy, or you run into an issue, something happens in the market where like prices are falling for real estate. You don't care because you can just work harder to get your unit rented. Into hard times, you market better, and that extra energy and effort. If interest rates get high, what do? You can lean into your property if you want to, and find the $20 an hour handyman and micromanage them, to get the repairs done for a lot cheaper. You can hire an $80 an hour plumber or $150 an hour plumber. You won't make any cash flow. A lot of investors do that. A lot of bad investors do that. And at scale, if you have the margin for it, awesome. But in a recession, people are pulling back. You got to pay down debt sometimes. If you don't pay down debt, at least have cash reserves set up, build emergency funds so that you're in a situation where you can weather through this storm, but you can lean in and manage better. And you can cut the property manager entirely. If you're going through a bad time and there's no money, you manage it yourself, worst case. And like one person can manage 100 units, no problem. So like I have people say, oh my, I could never manage like my 10 properties. I'm like, yes, you could. It's not hard at all. Like a Google Sheet to track your income and expenses. You know, when everything's rented out, it's pretty easy. Once in a while, you on your phone schedule calling different maintenance guys. You line up a couple of maintenance guys on a call list, and you run down the list and call whoever's available. Get them out there and fix the problems. That's it. It's the easiest business in the world because your customer is placed for years, and they keep buying every month from you. You give them a good quality product. All you have to do is just maintain it. So I like real estate for that reason because you can't lose a lot of money easily, but it is a great business to grow and to scale and to build wealth with minimal losses. So that's why I like real estate. It's a safe place. It's tangible. You can touch it. It feels good to better society. When I buy 10 distressed properties that maybe weren't even on the rental market at all because they were so derelict or so, not cared for that they weren't even on the market, and I transform them sometimes into a duplex. I add a unit. Now I've got 2 families living there that didn't otherwise have a place to live before. You're actually changing society. You're employing contractors, you're employing maintenance guys, you're employing property managers, you're paying lawyers and realtors and accountants. You're the largest driver of GDP in Ontario, as an example. One of the largest drivers of GDP, I believe it's the second or first largest, is real estate transaction entirely. So it's a very good business to be in. We need private sector involvement. Morally, it's a good business to be in. From a business perspective, it's a good business to be in. It's safe, it's tangible. So that's why I would pick that way to grow. Now, there are ways you can work in that business where you could work with real estate investors and own no properties at all and just assign deals that you find. Go look on the MLS all the time and be throwing out offers on everything. And maybe 5% of offers you throw out stick. 95% of the time, the door is slammed in your face and they say, hell no. Why would I sell my $300,000 property for $240,000? Why would someone sell it? Well, because they're desperate. Maybe they need money. Maybe they don't need money at all. Maybe you pay them closer to $300,000, but you work out a structure where they give you 5 years of interest-free time to pay them back. That's called vendor financing. You give them the price they want, but then they let you have that property for 5 years interest-free. So you have all the cash flow for 5 years because you have no mortgage payments. They're subsidizing you to own that property because they have equity in the property that they don't need, they don't want access to. There's lots of ways to make a deal work. And when you work with people, it's so much better than in real estate than in the public markets, because public markets are irrational but efficient. So meaning, like, they'll close an opportunity arbitrage gap really quick. But in the real estate world, the 2 properties in the same street are selling at 20% apart. Sometimes because of furniture or like bad grass that's like a foot long. Stupid things sometimes, a weird paint color, like a $200 fix, but people can't see past that. And so there's just so much opportunity in that real estate space. I love it. I think it's a great business to be in. So that's why I would choose that to grow. But let's go back to the Q&A because I missed a lot of questions here and I gotta go fast. Let's do some live Q&A. Live from the trailer park here in Florida. Thoughts on FBA? Did you ever investigate this business model? I have looked into the FBA model. It wasn't something I was interested in. I know people that make great money in that business, but it wasn't something that, like, I've got my 10,000 hours in real estate already. I'm already a master in that area. That for me to go learn another business and spend 10,000 hours isn't a good use of my time. I'm better to spend that next 10,000 hours diving deeper on the business that I already understand. But it's surface level. I know a lot of people who've tried FBA too who have failed. And so there's a lot of risk in that business because your underlying asset is like inventory and like marketing copy, right? Like if your marketing ads fail and don't do well, and your inventory doesn't sell, you're stuck with inventory. You got to liquidate at half price. You lose money, and you can lose a lot of money. Whereas in real estate, you fail. You can only if you bought smart, you can just sell the property for more than you bought it for, or at least what you bought it for. So there's a no loss at all. You just lost your time, which like with FBA, you can lose more than your time, a lot more than your time, and that's the risk there. I guess if you didn't know what you're doing in any business, you can lose money, but. D How To, glad to hear you're going to monetize your channel again. Thank you. Thank you guys, by the way, for watching this and for helping to monetize the channel. It's been, I used to make, when I was making those good videos that, the evergreen videos, like I have a good BRRRR video that's got almost 100,000 views. My frugality videos are kind of fun to make. Those videos were producing me, one of my videos produced me like $5,000. Like sometimes a good video will make you a couple $100 a month for years. And so it can be a great way to, if I had that income stream again, I could hire editors and I can create more content for you guys. It's throughout the day, I'm like sitting there, I'm like, this would be a great like 1-minute clip to share as a YouTube short. And I'll sometimes share that stuff on Instagram, but I could be sharing that with you guys on here on YouTube as well. and I just don't have the staff budget for that. I just don't, like, it's not a sustainable business. It needs to be. And friends of mine are like, man, what are you doing, Mike? Like, for 6 years you've been giving away free content. Your shit's lit. It's like the best on the internet. No one's giving away what you're doing. And I'm like, you're right. Like, no one is. And then friends are like, they won't value what you're teaching if you don't charge them for it, if you don't encourage them to show up and create a mentorship program. So I'm going to try all this stuff. I'm going to do it. I'm going to make the mentorship program. I'm going to eventually make a course. I'll probably have a lot of it will be free. There'll be some stuff that to get into the elite stuff, to come to the masterminds. Like, I want to do masterminds in Florida. I want to go to masterminds in Bahamas and Costa Rica, in Canada on the lake. I want to have fun times with people who are like me, who think like me. I want that tribe. I want that community. I want that. I'm calling it the Rosehart Roundtable. I want to assemble the Rosehart Roundtable. And I want us to be a tight-knit group that are sharing and cross-pollinating. I come across deals all the time that I don't take down. And it's like, I should be sending these to my group. And my group could be thinking the way I think and also finding deals. And there's just so much more can be done within a team than me hunting by myself. I hunt by myself, I can make $1 million a year. Like, that's about the cap of what I can do by myself. Fine.
And you're just a little bit farther, and you're in. You're in the sidewalk. And you don't see the sidewalk, you're in. Well, you gotta be, like, off their property, right? You know where the property line is? 1 foot the outside of that trailer. That's it? Yeah. Is there, like, a throughway?
And I think that we push the QQQ almost to highs we haven't seen in over 6 months. And it's like, why are we rallying like this? It's a bear market rally. In 2001, we had almost a 40% rally before then falling another, a third of the value was wiped out. So I think we're in a bear market rally in the stock market. In real estate, I think there's more pain ahead. So if you're just training and just learning about real estate right now, more pain is ahead. People who are struggling with the new interest rate hikes, especially in Canada, that are double what they were before, they're going to max out their personal credit cards. They're going to borrow from friends and family. They're going to borrow money for a while until they finally default. And then when they default, it takes 3 to 6 months before they get a judgment. It might take a year before that property hits the market. So a lot of distressed inventory hasn't hit yet. And once it hits, then we have new comparable sales that are even lower than they were before. And these comparable sales really are going to drive down prices. And so to me, that's a really big opportunity. I'm excited for it. Real estate will recover after stocks. So there's more opportunity in real estate coming up. I'm really excited for it. That's, again, why I want to build this team. I want to have a group of elite hustlers around me that are all hustling for deals and growing and together, cross-pollinating. It's just, I even have this just like vision of, forget the real estate deals and the money, but like just being around like-minded people. It just is such a breath of fresh air. So yeah. Can you break down what percent of 8 figures is in each asset class? Harrison, without giving too much away, I would say I'm like, I guess you consider like private mortgages and lending would also be real estate category. So I'm probably like 2/3 real estate right now. Next question. One of my tenants moved out after 7 years, left the home clean, almost like they didn't even live there. I had to replace the toilet. There was a small tear in some carpet, replacing downstairs carpet. That's awesome. Good to hear. Put the house on the market for rent, not charging her market rents, so you have an open house. Yeah, I mean, you're gonna get your rents way up. If they've been there for a while, then rents have gone crazy the last little bit. So yeah. Personal loan from Amex, definitely. There's lots of things you could do. Is that better than hard money? I think so, yes, because again, it's not secured to the property. So you have flexibility in what you can do with that. So Hong Kong Fu, yes, 100%. I don't want to throw any names under the bus. There's a lot of people in the industry who I think are peers who maybe come at things from a really hard sales and marketing strategy. And that's okay. Like I actually, some of the, the skeeziest financial gurus out there, it's actually kind of admirable how they're able to sell so many courses and trick so many investors into investing with them to buy properties. Like I like Grant Cardone. Like he's the biggest, so I can attack him because he's so out of my league. Like I have just so much respect for what he's been able to do, that like I don't feel bad poo-pooing on him. But like he's a guru, let's say. I hate Dave Ramsey the most probably, but like I don't want to shit on him either because he gives some good financial advice for basic investors who don't know how to manage their cash flow and who rack up personal credit card debt. And those people, they need to have no debt at all. But debt is a really good thing, and I think he's got it way wrong with that. I think debt is a good thing, and debt can be used as a tool and build wealth so quick and so awesome with debt. So anyway, as Grant Cardone's example, he sells people on apartment buildings and takes such a large acquisition fee and takes so much for himself that the investors are often getting like 6, 8, 10%. It's not even a good return. Like 6% is pretty bad right now. And there's investors lining up like, oh, so happy to JV to make like 5% return. It's like, what? Why would you? There's so many better opportunities out there. You have to be such a good salesman to sell someone. Like when I'm out here offering my investors like a 30% return, 40% return, annualized in some cases, they're out there offering 5%. And there's a lineup. And like the difference is my product is way better, but they're like when you run through the numbers, hey, I'm hurrying. Their sales and marketing is just so much better than mine. Like they have such a great network of people that they've convinced to buy these properties and invest with them. Good marketers. So on one hand, I admire how good they are at sales and marketing. That it's. I wish I knew how to do that. I wish I knew how to raise capital at 5% because that's amazing. I would never invest, but maybe that's why. Maybe it's because my type of investor doesn't understand, that. Sorry, my kids are here and they're trying to keep them outside on the patio here. We're in a trailer, so we're making our best here, guys. It's as quiet as it can be. All right. I think I got all the questions in this part. Nathan says, I want to say I love the show. Your early guides to FIRE have really helped me out a while back. Best of luck with everything. Thanks, Nathan. I'm going to be just fine. I've lost a couple $1,000,000, but I've not lost it all. Lost it all as in like lost all of what I was comfortable losing and then some for this year. But it made me think, like, what if I had actually lost it all? Like if I applied real leverage to a scenario and just blew it all up, could I come back? In a couple of years, no problem. Like no problem. Because again, I have the mental schemas and the frameworks and the networks that I could utilize to make money quick. That I could start buying properties just with people that I know who want a taste of what I'm doing. And so that's how I grow fast. Without any of my own money, I don't even need my money to grow. Although I do want to invest my money, and I want it to grow too. Harriet says, if I borrow from IB account to fund down payment on a property, does the bank know about that? No. Harriet, good point. IBKR, Interactive Brokers. If you put $100,000 in stocks in there, or say $1 million in stocks in there in the S&P 500, you can borrow against it, in theory, $700,000 line of credit at prime minus 2%. It's the cheapest mortgage you can get secured against stocks. You could, if you had $1 million line of credit, borrow $1 million in stocks. You could borrow, say, $300,000 from that portfolio. It's not even borrowing, really. You're taking out your own money, and then they leverage up the stocks, and it doesn't hit your credit report. It shows up nowhere. It affects no debt service, nothing. Totally safe, totally good way to do that. So I recommend if you have a stock portfolio, borrow from it. Really cheap, prime minus 2. Keep all your stocks. Don't touch anything. Just borrow from that. Don't borrow all of it because you don't want to get a margin call. What if that $1 million in stocks in the S&P 500, let's say the S&P drops another 20%. Like you want to make sure that at 800,000 times 70% loan to value, you still have enough to service that debt without having to sell any stock. So then at that point you borrow, say $560,000 is the maximum you could borrow. I would say borrow even less than that even. Maybe borrow like $300,000. And you're super, super safe to borrow a little bit of money out of there and to put it to work. It's a tax deduction too, so it's half of its tax write-off, basically get that money back tax time. So it's a great thing. Definitely a great way to grow your wealth. If you had to start again, you got to use leverage. You got to be smart about it. Bradley says, do you have any reservations about trying to dodge tax and using public services? No, Bradley. I guess the question is like, have I paid more than my fair share already? Yes, I have. The average person will not pay as much tax as I've already paid in my life. So the average person will work their entire life at a job paying tax, and they will still not pay as much tax as I've paid. So I've already paid my way. More than my fair share for my personal independence. But do you think that I should have to carry everyone else in my back too? Because I'm hyper-productive. I'm a hyper-productive member of society. So should I have to carry all the bums who don't work too? That's more of a philosophical conversation. But I still will pay tax. If I make money, Bradley, in the US or in Canada, I have to pay tax. Like if my corp in the US makes money, I still have to pay tax in the US. A portion of that can get back to me in the Bahamas, at a lower tax rate. There's no way to negate tax entirely. You're going to pay some tax. You get a dividend on a stock, they're going to be dividend withholding taxes, even if you're in the Bahamas. Now, capital gains, tax-free. So there are ways to strategically set up your income to pay very little tax. But you own real estate in a developed world like Canada or the United States. Canada and the United States have made it so that you have to pay tax on that property when it sells. There is going to be tax on the rental income. Now, there are ways to negate most of that, but there's going to be still some tax. So you're going to have to pay something. And when I leave Canada, I lose the public services. My health card, my free health care, it goes on hold when I leave. I'm still a Canadian resident. I come back to Canada, I can start it back up again. But if I leave, I lose access to those services because I'm not paying tax there. And that's fair. I'm okay with that. But ethically, I'm sure I've paid more than my fair share, and I continue to do that. And I will still probably give to charity and to give back in various ways through like philosophical, adventures like this, where I give my time or I invest my money into producing videos that make me nothing or make a net loss, but help society be better and help people elevate their own personal finance journey and help them get to a place of away from poverty. Because again, you can live on poverty and live a good life. There's no reason you can't work a minimum wage. I made videos about this way back in the day, about working a minimum wage job and becoming a millionaire in 15 years. So like, you can get ahead easily on minimum wage. I could do it. I've done it. For years, I lived on less than what I would have made working at McDonald's. So, I mean, and I was making more obviously and investing the difference, but I'm just saying the point is there, I could have still invested and saved. So I have some old videos that I shot way back in my tiny house, on one of my first duplexes. You can go find those videos. And I talked about that. It's like, I think, I can't remember the name of the video now, but something about, retiring on $1 million or living on minimum wage. There's lots of great videos about that and ways to learn how to live. Well, is difficult. Oh. I think I'm disconnected now. Am I live? No. I don't know. I might lose you guys. The internet's trying to share with the TV now, so like, there's not good internet at the trailer park here. We're trying our best. This is what it's all about. This is this is in business. My phone and my internet are my most important tools. So I make sure I always have a good phone. A lot of people try to argue for not having a good phone. You need to have a good quality. It's the most important device that I use. More important than my laptop. You need good tools. You can't have garbage tools. Invest in your tools, guys. It's just like a random thing that I'm thinking about. I can't get to all these questions. There's so many. With interest rates being high in the U.S., would you recommend paying cash for a property? I like to buy in cash and then refinance. It's a lot easier to close quick, to come in there and say, hey, here's my proof of funds. I'm going to close the property in cash. You can negotiate a really good price. So that's another strategy to come at it. So I like buying cash and refinancing because if you buy with a mortgage and refinance, there's sometimes a seasoning period. There's sometimes challenges with all of that, right? So, yeah. How did I lose it? I invested in the stock market and crypto, and the market is down. Crypto is down like 60%. I took like 10% of my net worth and I put it in crypto. And that didn't go very well. I reallocated portions of my net worth into areas that didn't perform well, and that's just me being subject to market performance. Wheezy Weed says, how many properties would you say you need to retire comfortably if each one cash flows $300 to $500? Again, it depends on the property because some properties cash flow nothing or negative, and some cash flow $1,000, $2,000 a month. Some properties cash flow $10,000 a month. So it depends on the types of properties that you have. I would say that if you had 10 good quality cash flow properties, you could probably retire on that and be just fine. Again, a portfolio with good leverage should generate 20% ROI. So in theory, if you had $1 million, that would generate like $200,000 a year with some appreciation and pay down over the long-term period. So over 5 years, that $1 million would turn into $2 million. But if you need to live on some of that, and you weren't trying to grow your wealth, you're just trying to sustain an early retirement, trying to generate enough passive income to live, then probably $500,000 to $1 million for just like a single individual is more than enough to retire on, if deployed properly into the right assets with some leverage. If that helps. Oh, it's hot in here. Whew. Almost need a pony. Put my hair in a pony. I could. It's actually long enough. I have super long hair now. I gave it a haircut. I actually cut my hair myself. I've been trying to keep it long though. I've been enjoying the flow. It's how long am I gonna have this long hair for before I go bald? Someday I'll go bald. So. Okay. What other questions did I miss? Mike, I'm seeing a few properties in St. Thomas. St. Thomas is rough, but there's some opportunity there. Opinion on this market, satellite market of London. Yeah, I used to have some property in St. Thomas. St. Thomas is okay. It's a rougher market than London, but you can get better cash flow for sure. Higher vacancy, more struggles with tenant quality, appreciation probably not as good, but it's a good market too. Another question was, one question always had when refinancing, doesn't the cash flow not service the new debt now that you've refied at a higher amount? Default name, if the property doesn't produce enough cash flow after you've refinanced it, you probably shouldn't keep the asset. Unless you've got some plan to sell it for a maximum dollar at a certain time, or there's some tax strategy that you're applying. But in general, I would say if after refinancing, the property can't service its own, don't hold it. Which means that most properties that I find in like, Toronto, Vancouver, New York, LA, the major metropolitans don't make any sense to hold. And my advice is like, if I inherited a property in Toronto, I would sell it. Like, well, what if it's like, this great duplex? I'm like, I'd sell it. Because the cap rates at market are so low that I can get such a great price for the property, it wouldn't produce enough cash flow to hold it. It's just not a good asset. I could go buy, with that capital, I'd go buy something in a smaller tertiary market and make 3 times the cash flow. So I'd much rather have 3 times the cash flow. It's lower risk for me. But I understand why people buy where they do. This has been a long stream. You guys must have really been digging it. So I appreciate, by the way, everyone tuning in. I'm trying to get through some of these questions here. I'd like to find deals as a wholesaler. So Marley, to find deals, you got to go knock doors. You got to talk to realtors. You got to talk to people in the space. Reputable wholesale companies. There are no big reputable wholesale companies. All of them are like quasi trading in real estate, right? I'm trying to think. There are a couple that are decent size. Is a mortgage agent, broker good to have on your team? How could that be beneficial? I mean, sure, your power team should consist of realtors, property managers, contractors, mortgage brokers. All of those things are important. Okay. I'm almost there, buddy. REI has asked, what's up with the real estate business? No, I mean, I partnered with another company, right? So I don't actually have any Airbnb business. What I'm doing is partnering with other people who run Airbnb businesses. So I would effectively bring them my properties at a discount. So we'd split in the profit. We're a JV, so to speak. I don't actively manage I don't do any active property management. I bring in someone to do that for me. So I bring in a property manager, I bring in an Airbnb management company. Usually it's a local partner in each market. You want someone who's going to be able to go and meet the guests, who's going to be able to optimize your listings and give it the attention that it needs, right? So in general, I would say that at my scale, it doesn't make sense for me to run a property manager company. It doesn't make sense for me to run an Airbnb business myself. However, I do invest in those areas by partnering with people. So you're able to find someone. So let's say you're paying, 25% for Airbnb property management. You can go out and call 3 or 4 management companies and say, hey, I'm buying a few properties in the area. Can we partner up? If I brought you some leads and some deals, some business to do 4 or 5 properties, can we manage it together? And they basically do all the work and you agree on a price at wholesale to effectively for them to manage it. So instead of 25%, they might be doing it at 12.5. And so you could think of how that could scale pretty easily, right? And so you're basically getting it at cost by partnering with them. You're sharing in their business expenses. So they would share with you their staffing costs and you would share in that with them. That's how the best way that I would partner. So those are the areas that I'm most interested in. Airbnb is struggling right now, though I will say that in general, most of the hosts that I talk to are struggling. They're like a lot of people on social media pretend that they're not struggling. They say that everything's going really well, that they're booked, their calendar's fully booked, or like I'm booked 4 months out, and it's like, but they're not doing that well. And you look under the covers and it's not going as well as some people say that it is. But in general, I like Airbnb. I really do. I think that Airbnb allows you a flexibility you don't get in a long-term rental. If rents jump 10%, you just jump your bookings immediately. If there's damage at the property, you have a damage process to bill their credit card. If they don't do it, then Airbnb has an insurance division you can submit receipts to and get your expenses claimed back. So Airbnb in general, I like it for properties. I would buy a property that can cash flow without Airbnb in case I have to pivot, to have multiple exits and to multiple, even when you're selling it, to have multiple exit sales strategies as well. So buy properties that can do multiple things, that would do well as long-term rental and do well as an Airbnb, that would still be cash flow positive in both situations. But I love Airbnb. It's hard to have, let me explain it this way. If I were to have my own Airbnb management company and I don't want to poo-poo on people who are doing Airbnb management because I have a lot of friends who do it. For me to go and hire good staff to run everything, to hire designers, to hire people to purchase, to hire people to set up, to hire someone to manage the calendars, to hire a department to handle just damage claims, and then getting cleaners assembled and all of that. To run all of that is a business, right? And I can spend my time assigning and acquiring real estate, which is what I love to do, That's the thing that I actually enjoy doing, is the prospecting for new stuff, chasing and negotiating, landing the contracts. That's what I enjoy. If I can do that and make $1 million a year, or I could do the other business and like, let's say you make $1 million. Let's say you're an Airbnb management company, because we're talking about the actual business of Airbnb management. I'd rather partner with someone and just get it for a lower cost by partnering with a local someone. Or hiring someone. You can, again, find someone. If you have scale, you can hire someone for 40, 50 grand a year who's already managing Airbnbs and make a contract price with them, 10 or 15% of revenue, and they'll manage everything for you. And you don't have to deal with any of the nitty gritty. You don't have to run a business, because running a business with employees is stressful. But anyway, let's say $1 million Airbnb business, your net on that, say it's a 20% billing that you're billing out. Your net revenue on that million, you say, hey, I got $1 million in Airbnb bookings. That boils down to 200,000 in revenue. And then you've got costs. If you're not doing any of the work yourself, if you're outsourcing everything, you're just sitting back collecting listings, your average cost after HST, I did a whole post. You can go check my series out. I did a whole post about this. But I don't want to go too deep in the weeds about it. But effectively, your net profit on $1 million in Airbnb bookings is $200,000 in revenue. It's really like $170,000 after HST stuff. And then all the expenses, like as an example, furniture depreciation is real. If you spend $10,000 furnishing a unit, there's a couple $100 a month in depreciation. That's a couple $1,000s a year in depreciation. On $1 million in bookings, that could be tens of thousands in depreciation alone. Like you have to repaint the unit after it's been destroyed, because your rent, if you're Airbnb arbitraging or you're a property manager, there's going to have to be every so often you have to refresh the units too, right? So there's all those different costs that build up, but staffing is a big one, right? Staffing is probably 30 to 40% of the revenue you're getting on the 20% that you're collecting. So let's say you're charging 20% of revenue on $1 million, 200,000. Your net on that is like 40 to 50 grand. So when someone's have to make $1 million as an Airbnb management company, they're netting like 50 grand for themselves, typically. Like that's a typical margin. That'd be a 25% profit margin on revenue. So the numbers sound flashy, but really when you boil down to the covers, if I was partnered with someone, $1 million in Airbnb bookings boils down to like 25 grand each. That's nothing. Like I literally lose that. If I lost $100,000 in a day in a stock market, that's what I make in a year on $4 million in Airbnb revenue, right? Like it's just not super exciting business. Property management, construction, those two businesses are auxiliary and necessary for real estate, but you don't make a lot of money in those businesses. You really make the money on the appreciation, on the value add, on the buying of the deals and buying smart. So I like equity. I'll always chase equity deals because that's where you make money. You don't really make money in property management. You don't really make money in construction. It's hard. I ran a construction company business and our margins were tight. Sometimes things go over budget and you make no profit. And so that's the reality. Like a really needy, bad Airbnb with a really bad guest get unlucky and someone parties in the unit, trashes everything, it takes all your time to turn it around. Let's say Airbnb covers all the damages, and they might not, but let's say they did. All of it. You still have lost revenue for the time. You still have, all the time, turn that unit back around again, new furniture, all that kind of stuff. It's a challenge, right? And so all that energy to make a few grand in profit, just really the real net numbers, when you boil down, look at the financial statements of all of the big Airbnb companies like Sonder and the huge guys, their operating margins are not that fat. They're thin and they're at scale. They have economies of scale with like billions in bookings, and they're struggling because it's a difficult business. I like it though. I like partnering with it. I like, where I can help people out and where there's an opportunity to arbitrage, I will connect them. Like I'm helping people and I was trying to help partners of mine do that, right? And so where people of mine want to do that, happy to do it. It's just, as I dug into the business and learned more about it, I'm very cognizant of the fact that it's not a very high profit margin business and not a good return on time. It sounds flashy. Again, the net wasn't that attractive. And then even for me, as in looking into arbitrage space, to fund it for 50% of the profit on an arbitrage wasn't that great return on my capital, actually. And my capital is better deployed in real estate. It would take years to get my money back. And so that was the challenge. And there's a lot of risk. And your underlying asset is like some furniture and prepaid rent. That's a shitty asset. That asset can become zero real quick. The resale value on furniture is nothing, right? Anyway, my thought is that Airbnb is great. I like Airbnb when I own the building, because then I have a property that I can sell at any time. It's fully staged, beautiful, full flexibility. If I want to use the asset, I can. Want to reposition the asset, I can. Want to refinance it, I can bring an appraiser through by canceling a booking for a day. I love Airbnb. I don't love property management. I don't love construction. It's necessary, it's part of it, but I love the equity pieces. So there's some education for you guys. Brent, it says, Mike, it sounds like you're warning everyone that real estate is high risk, low return, except for lucky, already well connected. No, definitely not, Brent. It is the way that I would grow wealth. It is the single fastest way to grow wealth. But you've got to do it right. You've got to do it properly. You've got to be buying assets that are significantly under market value. And you've got to be watching your cost base. You got to be making sure that you're squeezing and I guess pushing every dollar into the property to get the most value you can. And through that, you can get a triple digit ROI. You should be able to pull all of your money out of a property within 2 years. If you can't do that, you failed. If you get all your money out of the property within 2 years, 3 years maximum, you failed. 95% of properties don't meet that metric. But the good investors are all doing that. Every single deal, again and again and again. So real estate can be very low risk, very high return. Sometimes in some of the major metropolitan markets, again, low return, again, low risk, I guess, because you're in a large market. In general, I would say real estate is, for the most part, low risk. The chance of losing a lot of money is very, very low. You don't lose a lot of money in real estate. You mostly just you hold a property for 5 or 10 years, you always make money. So it's like the chance that you hold a business, you buy a business from someone, and in 5 or 10 years, the business might be worthless, worth nothing. All the staff are gone, the systems are done, business is outdated, you have no value, right? Whereas you buy a property business, and that property has a very low chance of downside. Now, I consider failure a 0% or a 5% return in a given. If you don't make a lot of money in a given year, that's a win for some people. A lot of people are like, hey man, I bought $1 million property, I made 50 grand, that's awesome. And I'm like, over 3 years, that's a horrible return. I feel like that's not enough, but some people are happy at that, right? So again, chance of loss, real estate is a very low risk business. And if you do it really well, it's extremely low risk. If you're buying $300,000 assets for 200 grand, your chance of losing money is almost zero. You've got to be like really fail at everything, and you probably still wouldn't even lose money because you bought smart. So start with buying smart. That's where you win in real estate, is learning how to buy. Most people don't do that. They go with the real estate agent, they look what looks nice, what looks pretty. They see something like this, or the other way now. Everyone's trying to find the BRRRR. So they see something like this, like, oh, I can just replace those cabinets for like 5 grand and turn this place around. All of a sudden it's worth, so much more. And it's not. They didn't run their numbers right. So it comes down to the analysis and making sure that you, in arbitrage, in any business that you do, it comes down to your numbers and making sure that you understand those cold. And most people don't like to live in a spreadsheet. They don't want to do their math. And so they struggle. Some people struggle. They don't get as high of a return as they could. But real estate is definitely not a high-risk business when you're talking about only the underlying asset. If you're running a property management business, your underlying asset is like contracts. Or like even just like maybe your vehicle or like some tools and equipment. If it's an Airbnb business, your underlying and it's an arbitrage business, your underlying assets are like furniture and prepaid rents and like the staff. Those are sketch assets if you have to liquidate in a worst-case scenario. But you own land and a building in a quality location, producing cash flow, doesn't matter how you mess that up, it's hard to lose a lot of money. The liquidation value is close to what you bought it for. So anyway, I got to run this. But an hour and a half went really long tonight. YouTube algorithm doesn't probably like a stream that long. If you've tuned in this long, at least you can do is hit the like button. That'd be cool. If you're watching this on the replay, it'd be cool if you hit the like button. Someone says Alberta's calling. I'm trying to get through all these streams as best I can here, guys. Or all these questions, sorry, through the stream. But I'm running out of steam, and I gotta go. I'm really late for my kids' bedtime here, and we're roughing it tonight. Tomorrow we'll be back at the hotel. But Zaylene says, currently in Canada, would like to start investing in Texas and even considering moving there. Where do you start? Start by talking to people in the area and start understanding what real estate looks like in the area. Start understanding, talking to immigration lawyers. Start reading online about the process, Zaylene. How do you find good deals if you don't know the area well, especially if you can't offer cash and no contingencies? Again, like, you've got to know the market. To go into a market you don't know well and try to find deals is difficult. You've got to know the market back and front. You got to look at hundreds of deals. You got to understand the price of properties, all of that. This is necessary. So you can't go in knowing nothing. You have to build knowledge and have a competitive edge and learn how to exploit that edge to make profit. Typically, that means just getting into more doors, talking to more people. A lot of that is really how you find deals. Talking to agents, talking to property managers out there who might have connections to off-market properties. All of those ways to drum up leads. And it's a lot of grinding. It's like I probably spend 40 hours a week, or maybe 30 hours a week, looking at deals. just having deals come across my desk from various sources, hunting for deals. It's like what I love to do. That's the thing that gets me excited. There's no other business that I should be chasing except for that, or teaching people to do that. Those are the two things. Is like that's what I love to do, and I'm trying to dial in this year to things that make me the most money and that are the best use of my time. And so doing that, I make $1 million a year, like that actively, plus what my investments can make me. So like that's where I should be focused. Yeah, that's one realization or epiphany that I've had, and that's how I would do it again if I had to do it again. So thank you so much, everyone, for tuning into the stream. If I missed your question, drop in the comments. I'll come back to this video and check in on it periodically over the next couple of weeks, and I'll answer any questions you guys have down below. As always, you know where to find me, rosehartcoaching@gmail.com, at Mike Rosehart on Instagram, Mike Rosehart, blue check mark on Facebook, and here. So thank you, everyone, so much for tuning in tonight. We'll see you guys next week. Remember, the secret to unlocking a wealth through you is 3 levers: spend less, earn more, and maximize returns in the difference. That's it. That's the dead simple way to finding and mastering early retirement and unlocking the freedom that I think honestly you deserve, and is only 5 years away if you apply yourself. Have a good night, everyone.